Welcome back to another episode of Lady Justice Talks, where curiosity meets law. Today you're with the host Rubal and
Charlie.
And we're together welcoming to our amazing guest,
Hailey!
Hi!
A little bit about yourself and your role in WILA. We all want to know.
I would love to. I'm a yapper, so this is great. Hi, I am a third-year Law and Society student here at York. I'm also doing a certificate in Public Administration and Law. My role in WILA right now is I'm currently the Senior Vice President. I started off right in the beginning for the events team as an event coordinator, worked my way up to the VP of events, and now proudly serve our entire exec team and everyone else as a senior vice president. So thank you for having me.
Whoop, whoop. Boss woman.
Yeah, and making a lot of promotions, she's getting good promotions, guys. Not jealous, but like it's a good achievement. Not jealous, but it's a good achievement. Okay, Hailey, do you want to let people know why we are here today? What makes you to be here with us today?
Absolutely. So we are here today to talk about policing. We are not just taking a broad, understanding of it, from a textbook. We are trying to, share some lived experiences, my experience working for the police service, and then also bringing in some academic research and background. As I mentioned, I study law and society, so it's a critical part of our degree. And trying to, combine all of that into providing everyone and educating people more on, what the police service is and what the future of it might look like.
Amazing. And what I look back into your background, so we get to know that you joined youth policing program at 16,
Correct.
Which is like very early number, like 16. You're just a teen and you're doing something in policing. So do you want to let people know what makes you to do that? And it was any specific reason, family, personal reason, what happened, what makes you to be the part of that program?
Yeah, absolutely. So as Rubal mentioned, I joined a youth and policing program at 16. And for those of you who don't know, youth and policing is a service-wide initiative from different police services, whether it's in Ontario or whether it's across Canada. It's for youth age 15 to 18 to gain some personal and professional development, but also learn a little bit more about the police service itself. And so I joined at around 16. Kind of a little hesitant about the police, I'm not going to lie. It's like, why did I want to work for them? And, what can I provide and what can I learn from them? Personal experience and background and, what people tell you about the police, you don't always hear positive things. And so I think for me, I was kind of just like, is this an opportunity for me to learn a little bit more and step into a position where I have access to resources that can provide me their experience and perspective, while also not just relying on what people tell me, because I'm very big on I want to learn it myself a little bit. And so for me, it was kind of I'm not eager. I'm not whoa, the police. But I think I learned a lot.
Not at 16.
Yeah, you're so young that you don't really know what to expect. But you also don't really know.
You don't even know sometimes where you need to be serious or where you need
Exactly.
Yeah, I feel like when you're 16, it's just you're just figuring things out. And I feel like being in that environment is so intimidating because these are people who have been working in the systems for years and years and years. And it's a 16-year-old who comes in. It's kind of what do you expect? So with that, how did you actually find this job and how were you selected for the role?
Yeah, so finding the job there's a couple different outlets. So they're very active on social media. A lot of services, I know from my experience, and as mentioned, I'm from the Durham Regional Police Service, so those are my experiences coming from. I can't really speak on behalf of the GTA or every single service across Canada.
Makes sense,
but for the Durham Regional Police Service, they have a really active Instagram that I was just like, oh, this looks cool. They're hiring, why not apply? But also they were sending out promotional posters and coming in and having talks with my high school and being like, oh, apply for this. It's kind of cool. It's a fun opportunity. And so I applied for it. I went for the interview, which again, you're so young and you're sitting in an interview with someone that leads the program, but then also a bunch of officers in full uniform. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm sweating. What am I going to do? Thankfully, I got the job and was hired on, and it's kind of like a contract position. You're hired for a program. So they have a summer program and a winter program, and I was hired for their winter program, which is about 14 weeks, and then their summer one's about 8. And so during the program, it's kind of personal and professional development, also learning a little bit about the different units that come in and have conversations. So like we would have homicide detectives come in, members from the guns and gang unit, members from victim services, like such a wide range of people coming in to teach you and kind of share some of their insights. And then we also gained a lot of training opportunities, which was really cool. Something that a lot of people pay for, we got paid to do, which was nice. So we got first aid training, we got mental health first aid, we got public speaking training, we've got leadership training, diversity, equity, and inclusion training. So they're really trying to make like a well-rounded individual for future career opportunities, and also to kind of make you consider policing as a future outlet for your career and professional development. So really cool opportunities. Definitely recommend for people to check them out if you want to learn a little bit more about the police. And a unique fact is kind of that when you're in it, a lot of people start off being fearful of the police and having a negative perception. You do a like pre-survey, and it's kind of like, are you confident in the police in your area? Do you feel comfortable asking someone for help? Would you call the police in areas of danger? And then you do the same survey at the end. And in their program reports and stats, like almost 90% of people improve with their relationships with the police, which is really cool.
That's awesome.
So you're getting about 100 students per program that are getting more positive experiences with the police. So yeah, I think it's a really cool opportunity that kind of got my foot in the door for other future opportunities as well. But yeah.
I absolutely love that. It's so cool. And I feel like going back to the like all these different kinds of people coming in, I feel like when you see police, you kind of just see like the on-duty things that they're doing, and we just kind of see those individuals in uniform kind of walking around the streets. I think we can all kind of attest that we see a police officer almost every single day, if not driving around in their big cars. And I feel like it's so cool just to see like the different perspectives of, like you said, all the different units that come in, like the victimization units. And I feel like at 16 too, when we think about police, I would say no 16-year-old really wants to have a great relationship with police, because once you look at them, they're people in uniform. They have a lot of power and a lot of authority, and it's kind of like, it's so interesting to me, and I absolutely love that they do this program, because I think we should get 16-year-olds and younger people immersed, so younger students can have a great relationship with police, because as you said, like, do you feel comfortable talking to police? Do you feel would you call them in an instance? I feel like a lot of young people wouldn't, unless they've had this kind of sort of generalized training, and I'm so happy that you're advocating for it. So to move on with that, so for students interested in similar youth and policing initiatives, can you tell us like what positions you've done in it, and what's your like favorite position that you've done so far?
Okay, so as mentioned, I started off as a student for youth and policing, and that position's very general. You're all getting the same experience. You're going to be put into a team of about 10 people, and you're planning a community initiative to give back to your local communities. Or just ways to kind of get other youth involved. So when I was a student, I was planning a CAN conference, Community Advocacy and Networking. And it was basically, we just brought a bunch of employers that wanted to hire youth and got a bunch of people from Durham region to kind of come in and hand in their resumes, have interviews on the spot, and gain those like professional skills. So after a student, you can apply to become a team leader. And as a team leader, you are essentially overseeing 100 students at once, but you also have a tight-knit team of about 10 again. That's awesome. And you're planning your own community initiative.
Wow.
So I applied to be a team leader because everyone was like, Hailey, apply. Like, I think you'd be great. And I was like, no, I don't want to be
we can see that leadership qualities even in the WILA. Like, we can see that, no doubt.
Thank you. But yeah, they're like, Hailey, apply. Like, it doesn't hurt, because I wasn't going to at all. I was like, no, I think that was enough for me. I'm good. Anyways, I'm easily convinced, so I applied. And I got the job.
Peer pressure at its finest.
Exactly, it works. So I got the job as a team leader and had my team of 10, and we worked on an initiative called Hearth Place. We were giving back to a cancer support center and being able to, fundraise directly for them, where we got over $10,000, which was really incredible to be able to give back.
Yeah. That's so impressive.
And then we also kind of worked on different activities and rotations to educate people on, how we can support these vulnerable communities, how you can volunteer yourself with Hearth Place, and how you can just kind of continue to want to give back within your local communities. So that was awesome. And then at the end of that program, I was promoted to a supervising team leader.
Wow.
And
again, a promotion. Wow.
And so that role was a year-round role. So whereas the student and team leader positions were contract, the supervising team leader position is you're hired part-time, full year-round, right?
Oh, it's kind of permanent part-time.
So this is like a little bit different than the seasonal contract.
Exactly, yeah. So you're hired for the DRPS. You're a civilian for the police, but you only work part-time hours until the summer hits. You hit your 40 hours full-time. And so for the supervising team leader position, I held a couple different roles. We divided ours into portfolios. So you basically had one coordinator and one supervisor work directly on one. Yeah. And so I started with the operational portfolio, which is where you are planning the entirety of those 14 or 8-week programs for 100 students. You're getting all of the different units from the DRPS to come and speak on their behalf, share some of their experiences, do some activities. You're also getting all those trainings, as I mentioned. You're trying to schedule them, bring them in. You're also trying to figure out your community initiatives that you want to give back to and how you can kind of make that work. Yeah. You also are doing risk management, conflict resolution.
That's good. Wow.
So as you can imagine, 100 youth in one room is not always a delight. Yeah. You have to manage a lot, and there's always personal conflicts that are going to occur.
A lot of ideas, a lot of brains.
A lot happening, right? Like there's a lot. Yeah. And while we had officers that were there and being able to be a resource, we also wanted something that was really empowering about the program is it's youth leading youth.
I was actually just literally about to ask that. I was going to say, I feel like in a program like this, the most effective thing for youth to actually come out and learn is have it being led by other youth.
Yes. Yeah.
So I love that. It's so cool.
So we had officers at every single day for programming, whether it was they were coming in and sharing their experiences, but we also had a constable from our unit because we worked under the equity and inclusion unit. We had a constable every single day that was kind of like our go-to person. Any conflicts arise, they are our go-to. And any student that has any questions, whether it's personal, whether it's professional, whether it's they just want to know why they're an officer, you can sit and have one-on-ones with them. It was a really good resource to kind of be like, there's an officer here that can actually support me, because not everyone can say that they've had that experience.
Yeah, exactly.
But the youth leading youth part was really cool because I'm leading people that are older than me half the time.
That's good.
That's such a different experience because you're going to get that into your careers as well. You're going to face that, but also being able to learn how to do it so young and having those leadership qualities to help support others, guide these programmings. You're reaching out to organizations that have been around for 50 plus years, and you're being like, hi, I'm 17, help me, right? So I just think it got me a lot of experiences, and it was a really fun opportunity. And then after the operational portfolio, I went into an administrative role, which again, very different from what I was used to. I was very used to being up front and center, leading the day-to-day programming, whereas administratively, you're kind of sitting at the back. You're kind of managing a performance management system. So we would track how the youth are doing each week. Yeah. I mean, are they gaining professional skills? Yeah. Where can we help improve? What can we do better? We're also paying them. So I'm doing all the finances.
Wow. That's good.
She's doing it all.
Yeah.
You're paying everyone for coming into the program.
She's everywhere.
I was everywhere all at once. But yeah, you're paying people to come in for the programming. You're ordering invoices. You're booking venues. You're trying to find space that can accommodate 100 youth in one room at once, which, shocker, it's very hard.
Yeah, no, I bet. Yeah. I also feel like this program is so cool because I feel like when you want to go into the police force and you kind of don't know that much about it, it's nice to have someone who kind of relates to your situation, being a teenager, and can relate and talk to you about why they love it, so that you can gain more insight to the actual world of policing, because I feel like there's so many different realms of it, so many different scopes, as Hailey has mentioned, and you can actually see what they do. And
even I would say it's a the 16, 17, that age is the when either you're gonna right track, either you're gonna go on the wrong track. So even being a parent, if you're looking from your kid to get involved, I would say at that age, if you're getting into the community service, your child is surrounded by, you know, the policing. And then you can also, it's not just you're doing advocacy stuff with somebody like my child in this business. Like your child at that age of 16 can be in the right environment, can be an environment there. It's not just advocacy, it's not just social services. He or she can do everything, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, literally to add to that as well, like I love what you said about like the right track and the wrong track, because I feel like in our communities we obviously do have teenagers who find themselves in the wrong situations, wrong place, wrong time, and do tend to run into the police more often than they would like to. So I feel like this opportunity also, I think you talked about kind of business owners would come in and they would hire these youth. So I feel like youth who are at risk and youth who just often just don't have the same circumstances that we do and same resources that we do in schooling, and just like how their lives have been brought. I feel like these kinds of programs are like essential to have them succeed in basically our world. So
even like they're coming with overall personality sometimes, but like when you're in the school and you're just doing a specific program, like we're doing the business program, so we're mostly into, you know, right now we're mostly into the transfer skills like communication, leadership. But you mentioned like you did the trainings, like a lot of trainings, first aid and CPR, a lot of things, right? So like you're making such kind of personality, like it's as a human being. It's not you're specifically for a lawyer, you're specifically for a business owner, but a person who can do everything. Either it's like you're working as a business owner, but something happened, like you can be just like handle that situation. So they're over, like, you know, they're making a person that can be everywhere,
well-rounded.
As you mentioned, like I heard your experience as well, like you did everything. It's not you're just like, hey, I'm just in from the law and society degree, why I'm doing like admin stuff, why I'm booking events things, why I'm booking venues and looking for invoices, right?
Exactly.
So like they're making the people to be not to just to get a job, but like how to survive a life.
Yes, exactly. That's something that like as a supervisor, you got to really focus on that a little bit more, because you're planning the entirety of the program and like community initiatives. And like going back to like that right and wrong track, like something that was really stood out to me and still kind of stands out to me to this day is when I was a supervisor, we essentially get to pick what community initiatives we want to do and how we want to give back. And while there's some that you just do because you're doing it every program and it's really entertaining, like that CAN conference where we have those people coming in to hire youth, I switched things up a little bit and we did like a food drive, and we went to a soup kitchen and got to serve the unsheltered community downtown Oshawa. And you know, having police officers in that space was something that we had to figure out how can we accommodate that, because a lot of these people that are coming in every day just to get warm food and have an actual meal didn't want us there because we're wearing, even though I'm a youth, even though I literally looked like 16, like they still saw that crest on my shirt and were like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, to add to that too, like in criminology, so I'm a criminology major. In criminology, we kind of look at how people perceive the law, how people, and I don't remember the theory over the top of my head, but there's a theory that when like the police presence, even people just seeing them in like protesting, anything like that, people just seeing them in their gear, seeing that they have weapons on them, because rightfully so, they do need to have that just because you never know when a situation can arise, and they need to be able to do their duties to protect the community. But I do find, like people can get aroused so easily from that, and it's just like a trigger point for so many people.
And rightfully so. A lot of people have these negative experiences and feel very overwhelmed with police presence. And if you have to put it into your perspective of you're going somewhere that you go every single day. Think of it as your dinner table. You're going to sit there and eat every single day.
I don't know if I would want a police officer
at
my dinner table.
Right? Or they'll be like, here's your food. It's that power that a lot of people don't want to experience.
And it's kind of like that power over like, oh, like now you have control over what I eat and what I do.
Exactly. And that's not at all what I wanted to do. So when planning that, like we had officers attend, and I gathered some just really good community officers that actually want to give back. And we went all non-uniformed. And we showed up as people, as volunteers that were just like, let me serve you food. And then when having conversations with them, they'd be like, oh, what group are you with today? Because a lot of the times the shelter and soup kitchen would have different groups come in to volunteer. And they'd be like, who are you with today? And I would be like, oh, a youth and policing program. And they'd be like, oh, what's that? Like, it's nice to see youth actually care about us and see us as a human being. And then we would have an officer be like, oh, how's your day? What can I do? And they're like, oh, actually, there's this thing around down the street, around the corner. Could you check that out? Absolutely, right? It was a lot of just positive interactions and conversations.
I love that.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's the one thing that stuck with me since that entirety of that program. The biggest thing was just being able to take in the perspective of not everybody gets to have these resources available. Not everybody gets to have a positive interaction, you know, once or even ever. And being able to kind of shift that narrative one little step at a time. It was 2 nights that we got to serve their food, but it was 2 nights that we had good interactions with the police officers nearby. It was 2 nights where we got to, you know, give back to the community and have other youth realize the impact they can make. And so overall, that was one of like the biggest experiences. And I know we were asking about my positions. I haven't even got to the other one. But I also just recently served as a summer student for a strategy, research, and organizational performance unit. And that is a team of civilians. So civilian for the police service is just people that aren't officers that work there. So, you know, they might work for their records department. They might work for strategy and research. They might be a crime analyst, whatever it might be. But they are very integral to the police service as well. And so for that unit, I got to, you know, try something very new once again. And, you know, do a lot of research and understand background, understand perspective, and how it aligns to a strategic plan. So, for example, like you have to think of how much data is coming into a police service every single day. You have to think the number of calls to 911 to a non-emergency line. You have to think about the number of, you know, officers are just driving and see something that they need to react to. You have to think about all the body-worn camera footage. You have to think about all the audio recordings. You have to think about police officer notes. You have to think about, you know, even just daily interactions. And so what we were doing was trying to understand that data a little bit, perform a little bit of research on certain units and different duties with the police service as well, but also just being like, what does this data show me? And how can I relate it to a strategic plan? And the strategic plan is something that's like, these are indicators that the police service is on the right track. We are, you know, fulfilling our roles. We are being a responsible unit. We're holding ourselves accountable. And this is the progress we've made. So, for example, like you're tailoring research from a call and police response and mean like, did we have an increase in police response time to emergency situations? Yes or no, and why? And so that was a lot of the work I got to do this summer, which was really, really cool. We worked with over 30 different officers, so constables, you know, might have been their first year. It might have been their 30th. Like it could have been anyone. We worked with civilians. We worked with deputy chiefs, superintendents, inspectors, and then also my direct boss, the director of strategy, research, and organizational performance. Every single day, we were working with a million different people. And again, you're having me sit there and interview someone that in their career and be like, okay, hi, like let's schedule something, and trying to understand some of their roles and responsibilities every day. So, you know, that job, I know you asked what one was my favorite. I would say that one, honestly, because it was the most different to what I'm used to. Youth and policing, you know, as you projected in your roles, you became very comfortable in that environment. You're like, youth leading youth, blah, blah, blah. And
it's
this was
like an
fully
empowering
different
environment. I feel like this experience, just like from me listening to it, it's like giving you like so much more insight and just so much more experience that now you can take these experience that you've had and apply it to even like your law and society major.
And like that's something like we study a lot, the police and law and society, and I took a couple crim classes, so you can probably relate, but we study the police a lot, and it's something that comes up, and you can't neglect their appearance in society. You have to acknowledge it, and I know that they face a lot of scrutiny, and there's obviously concerns. It is not a perfect service. I am not promoting that at all, but I think it's just unique to be like, this is the experience of someone who's been there. I've worked there for 3 years, and I'm able to shed a little bit of light at such a younger age, say, this is what I've seen, this is how I wanted to make a change and what I was able to do. So I would say all of them were very impactful, but the most recent one would definitely be my favorite.
I love that.
Just to add on, for like, is it open for everybody? Like, it's just only for the Ontario residents, like obviously for the specific area, but like specific like international students and immigrants, like is it open for everybody, or it's just
so for the youth and policing program, again, it just depends on the region you're looking in. But I can speak on behalf of Durham region. So as long as you had like essentially status in Canada, you were able to apply.
That's awesome.
Like you're eligible, either international student, either work permit, you're eligible to work.
And as long as you had the status to work, you can work there because it's a job. Like it was a contract. And then same, so for the summer student positions, little promotion out there, like look out near the services near you, because I'm sure they have opportunities. And it's not just for like law and criminology majors. I had someone that I worked closely with that was in finance.
Yeah.
And they're, just budgeting and submitting numbers every single day. And they're working the finance side of the police. There's a legal department. There's a strategy and research. There's a department where you're managing like the cars that go out every day. Like there's such a wide range of skills and possibilities there. And that's just from one service that I'm speaking on behalf of. We had a health and wellness student that was trying to promote, healthy well-being for officers that face crises every day.
Yeah.
And
it's like you're
so
like,
different, right? Like
it's like you're kind of breaking a myth. Like when you talk about the policing, it's always come to your mind, oh, it's gonna be for the people who from the law and society background. It's people who want to work for social services and stuff like that. But it's kind of like good you're breaking that myth. Like it's not just for the one niche, but it's for everybody. Because it comes to my mind because I saw you're talking about the policing program. Like there was like a Peel region kind of thing, hiring police thing, and then I came to mind maybe there's some graphic designer who's handling their the police
there
page.
Is yes.
So I'm like, oh, they have the marketing people as well, they have like everybody in that. So it's kind of a myth in the society that it's just for one kind of niche, but within the department when you look into the operations, finance and everything, so they need each kind of individual. So of course they're going to be the people from the STEM or handling the IT stuff, handling the codes and technical issues. So I would say it's like instead of going to a lot of just jobs there you feel like it's gonna be exploitation and stuff like that, it's like this is kind of something that one point where you're very close to social services, you're very close to reality, and if every day not from the books, like outside of the books, you're actually living a life and you're looking how the things work, and also you're working specifically into the field you want to be. So I would say like at one point with everything in there.
Yeah, like there is a job for you in a police service. If you're interested and you're not studying law, criminology, whatever it might be, there is a job for you. I can almost guarantee it. Like there's so many people with different skills, different backgrounds, and like there is a role, 100%.
Yeah. To add on to this, so you talked about your roles, or your favorite roles. So let's talk a little bit about in the camera, like behind the scenes, like what was so. Like I know people a lot have like some mistrust, marginalized community immigration about the police and police people, right? So you spent like almost 3 years of life with them. You looked and observed everybody as a civilian, as a the police officer. You observed everybody. So how you think about it, and any changes when you started in the beginning as a 16 and now when you came out of that job, like what's your perspective for the police people, and what's your idea or like advice for the community who are mistrusting? Maybe they have the personal things, but sometimes a common and general idea. And to be add on as a woman as well, like did you feel anything as a woman, I wasn't that thing but I feel like I shouldn't be there? Any idea like behind the scenes you want to share?
So perfect question, I really love that. So to begin, like the fear and mistrust that many marginalized communities have with the police, and even just an individual experience, are 100% valid. Like, they have faced mistrust, they have fear, there is lots of, problems with the service. It is not perfect at all. And so, like, I hear them. Like, I 100% get it, because it's not something that you can just fix overnight, and it's not something that you meet one good officer and you're like, oh, cool, I'll just forget everything else, right?
Exactly.
Like, their experiences are 100% valid, and I totally feel for them in the sense of you've been mistreated. Now, on the other end of things, I think, as a woman, you mentioned, like, what my experiences were like, and I don't know how to put it into words, truthfully. As a student for youth and policing, that's very different, because it's just kind of gathering a bunch of youth nearby in Durham region. And like in Durham region, like we have so many diverse communities and people that like you were not meeting someone that was even close to similar to you. Like everyone had a different experience, which was really cool. And so that felt very inclusive, and it felt like a really warm environment where everyone had an opportunity to shine. And then when I was working year-round for the service, every day going into the office, having conversations with, my desk mates or people across from me, or visiting other divisions and kind of learning around them, I always felt like they trusted me, which was really cool. One, as a youth, two, as a female, in interviewing multiple men every single day. But the one thing I did notice is the diversity of police services is something that doesn't fully reflect our community. And again, speaking on behalf of Durham Region, like I don't live in Toronto. I don't really walk the streets of Toronto often, so I can't speak on behalf of what that looks like. But you can always look into it. Like a lot of information is public.
Yeah.
But I would say like of the 30 or so people I interviewed this summer, even 20 of them were white men, minimum, right? Some were women, some were men, some were from other backgrounds, whoever it might have been. And I think it was, you know, something that a lot of people know already, so it didn't really shock me too much. But I also think that a lot of them were just like, I've been in this position for so long. And historically, that's what the police service was. It was very dominated by white men. You have to think about the laws they're upholding of Western colonial laws. Like, the history of it there is upholding power and privilege.
Yeah.
And so it hasn't fully changed and reflected that yet. And I will be 100% honest on that. Like, that is something that, like, you go into probably any division in Ontario, and it's probably reflecting something similar. But I do know that they're trying to change things.
Yeah.
Working for youth and policing, we worked under the Equity and Inclusion Unit, which, first off, having that unit is important, right? And having leaders that want to promote diversity and inclusivity across the service and within their communities is impactful, just to start there, right? And so having that unit, being able to figure out, okay, what are we doing to, you know, maybe have more hires that reflect our communities, right? What are we doing to have people that can see an officer that looks like them, or have someone respond to a call or pick up the phone and be like, oh, I actually relate to you.
Yeah.
Like, I understand where you're coming from. And so I think the mistrust of the police is something that is valid. Like, I think there is a lot of research that backs this too, if you want to think of the academic side, but also just have a conversation with anyone and they'll probably say, like, I might have had a negative experience, I might have had a positive experience. Like, it depends on the person. But you also need to think of, like, social context for a lot of things. When you think about who the police are interacting with the most and why they're interacting with them, that, you know, perpetuates this mistrust with these communities. So as I mentioned, like Oshawa, the downtown Oshawa area has a lot of unsheltered people. And you have to think about the laws being tailored to promote privilege and say, you know what, you can't sleep outside of this business. So I'm going to remove you. That's encouraging an interaction with a police officer with an unsheltered person every single day. That's not something, are they causing harm? No, but they are perpetuating a cycle of re-entry into the system, you know, engaging with officers and having a negative experience from just trying to simply exist.
I love how you put that into words, and I think I really like how you talk about how the system isn't perfect. I think that a lot of us have to understand that the system was first created, like the RCMP was actually first created to control and establish land agreements with Indigenous people and to make sure that the Western values were associated into Canada. And I feel like now even through growing up, I now see that the police really are trying to change that kind of stereotype that's been perpetuated of how it's like it's been perpetuated and and I think that they are really trying to change things. And for someone who does live in Toronto, I really agree with what you said about the unsheltered people. Like on Queen Street West, it's like a very famous street for unsheltered people. Unfortunately, there's a very large encampment there, and it's just a place where they can come together and just make sure that each one of them is safe. And it's just a really sad circumstance for them. And I see it every single day of just trying to say, hey, you really can't sleep outside this business. And then it kind of perpetuates a negative situation. And then unfortunately it escalates because there's just that distrust that we kind of talked about that just it can never create a more beneficial situation. But recently, actually last week, I did see a really great interaction. This one police officer, I don't know his name. I was just kind of observing. There was a man who was just having a really hard time, and he came and kind of sat next to him, and he was like, hey, like, you can't sleep here. You can't put your tent here. Let me take you to the shelter. I'll drive you. Let's work this out. And the man just looked at him and said, okay. And it was like right after he was like in the street having a freak out. And what I really appreciated of this officer is he didn't call backup. And I think that also makes them more upset when you're calling more and more backup, because you obviously have to protect yourself, but it can escalate the situation for sure. And I just like, it kind of changed my perspective a little bit about them, because I feel like when we see those two interactions, it's never positive. But it was such a good experience for me.
Yeah.
Honestly, look into that situation. Like, both sides are just like doing their job. Like, homeless don't have a home, so they're just standing or sitting somewhere. If we're looking to the police, man, they're just at the end, they're doing their job. It's just like we need to find out, like, a positive system how both can work together.
Yeah.
But at the end, like, it's just like from one person perspective, we feel like, oh, she or he is not treating well to us. But at the end, if we look into that, I don't know about all the countries, but so far how many years I had been in Canada, and I look into the Canadian police, I was like, everything if they're taking a strict initiative, is just like for a purpose, or even I would say like they're just doing their job. In future, I think myself, I'm joining a police services, and I feel I have committed to something, I have to take action for that. But like, yeah, that's going to be another point, next person, how they going to take this stuff. But for very sure, like, if I look into the Toronto police or Canadian police, or so many, whatever experience I had so far, I feel like as compared to other countries, I would say like, yeah, they literally work for a purpose. Like, there is something, but yeah, it just, every person's mindset, how they just want to take that thing. Like, they're just literally doing their jobs.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like now too, the police have more intention with their jobs. So I think back then it was more like Western dominated. We really wanted to perpetuate our views and into the people that are living in Canada, whether they're the marginalized community or not. I feel like the police really took like a strict on crime approach. And now I find that police are really like opening their eyes to the circumstance of Canadians living in Canada. And I kind of love that you kind of mentioned that now the police, especially in the Durham area, are more inclusive in the people who are actually on the job.
Yeah, they're trying, right?
They're trying, like, and there's more people who have a deeper understanding because they've come from those situations. Yeah. And it's now not as much of a like white male majority field. There's more women coming into the field. There's more
immigrants coming,
immigrants
a
who
lot
are coming
of
from
people,
different countries, and they can offer their experience. And I find once you open your eyes, obviously when crimes happen, it's the law. It's something that happens. But now I'm finding that police are seeing more of the intention and the circumstance behind the crime rather than just the crime itself.
Yeah. Even that's the reason I ask about the international student. Like, even if they're like literally, they know, like, not all international students gonna stay here. They're just for 3 or 4 years. They're gonna go back to home right after graduation or whatever. But still, like, they're opening it for the students as well. Like, if you want to serve the community, if you want to be the part of policing program, you're most welcome to it. So I was like if we're talking about the rebuilding trust from that perspective, they are trying their best, like somehow opening to everybody. Because even I am also immigrant, right? So I come from a specific marginalized community, right? So I also like saw some people from, a lot of people from my community be the part of the police. And I was like, I would never expect that, or like think about it like, you're coming to a white country, a colonial country, and they're letting you into their system. And now I can see the people in the parliament from the immigration point of view, like a lot of immigrants working as a part of parliament. So I was like, if we're talking about the rebuilding trust, they are literally making it just the perspective in each and every mindset, like how they look into the situation, right?
Yeah. And I think with rebuilding trust, like as you're mentioning, like I think that is a really key component moving forward, is we've acknowledged the history of the police service is not really positive for everyone, right? No. It's upholding Western colonial laws, upholding these states' interests. And when you have someone reinforcing those values, it's going to perpetuate inequalities and harm. Moving forward, if you want to rebuild trust and you actually truly want to make a difference, I think it's all about having that openness, having the transparency, and being able to establish a partnership. Yeah. It is not a duty of one officer or one service to go up to a community that feels like they've been harmed or has mistrust against them and just say, here's your solution, and move on. That is not problem solving at all. How we need to address this is establish a partnership and say, okay, so this is what we're doing. We've taken accountability. This is how we want to move forward. What are your thoughts? Right? How can we support you? What can we do that's different? How can I be open and honest about this? And so, for example, like as working with my summer role this summer, something I didn't know was that these services publish race-based data every year and how much use of force is used against these individuals every single year. That's something that not everybody knows exists, but that's them trying to be transparent, and we need to promote that more. We need to say, hey, look in your local services, look at your regions, and find this public information and see, okay, does this make sense to you? Or maybe it's gone down a little bit. Maybe it's gotten worse, and how can we address that? I think it's very much about building that trust, having these conversations, a service, an individual, whoever it might be, being like, this is not what we want. We want to build stronger relationships. We want to, you know, have positive influences around your community, and we don't want to support you, but we're also acknowledging that we haven't been doing that, and this is how we want to change. It's all about just having that openness and conversation.
I love that. I feel like I wanted to know your perspective as well. So I find that in this day and age, I feel like body cams on police have been such an effective part at keeping them accountable for certain behaviors. Maybe we're talking about extra force, things like that. And how do you think that the body cams and kind of that perpetuation of that can actually help rebuild trust within the communities?
Yeah, I think that's a really unique perspective. And so, again, something that you don't really know is public information. And is if you have an interaction with an officer, again, speaking on behalf of Durham, I don't know everywhere else. If you have an interaction with an officer, you can request that body-worn camera footage. You can say, I want that footage. And they're going to provide that to you if it meets certain criteria, or, you know, you're going to court and you need that footage, whatever it might be. They are going to provide that for you. They're going to redact information that's personal to an officer. You know, if they pull their cell phone out and it has a message from whoever it might be, they're going to redact that, of course. They're going to be like, not, the public doesn't need that. But these are interactions that are recorded. Like, they are literally being captured, the entirety of it. And it depends on some regions and some states. I know, like, in Canada, like, the mandatoriness of body-worn cameras isn't entirely across everywhere in Canada.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it's maybe more prevalent in, like, Ontario and,
and it's up to, like, services themselves as well. Like, it's not embedded in law that every single officer needs their body-worn camera on at all times for every interaction. Different places are different, but I think it's something that has, you know, the positive effect of, one, being able to hold an officer accountable for what they're doing, how they're behaving, and who they're interacting with. But also it could have, you know, you have to kind of take the devil's advocate side. It could have a negative interaction as well, because you are being subject to public scrutiny for everything you're doing regardless. And if you feel as though you upholding the law in a situation is going to make someone feel as though you're causing harm, then you might not be performing your job. Right? So there is that side as well, which I don't think is as big of a problem as, like, the accountability piece. I do think it's important to have all these situations and have officers accountable, but also just making sure that we have, you know, neutral third parties that are, like, looking into this footage and being like, okay, are officers doing the right thing? Was this interaction, you know, just? Was this according to their roles and responsibilities? So I do think it has the opportunity to build trust again, but again, like, who's gaining access to this information, or who knows that it's available to request it, or the only people that can request it have access to internet and a computer. So there's a lot of different social factors you need to consider, but I do think it is a step towards building more trust.
I love that. And to add to, like, the public scrutiny part, so some people believe that we shouldn't work with the police at all. I think that we've recently, since the 2020 movement, we have seen an uprise of groups and groups of people who don't want to see the police at all, want to defund the police, especially movements like ACAB, and saying that all cops are bastards. And even if you join the force with good intentions, you want to help your community, the system will essentially make you like a rotten apple. What's your opinion on that, and how do you feel about that perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's something that, like, this is more where the academic side of research comes in. A lot of topic of conversation over the past couple of years at university has been defund the police and ACAB. And I think I get it. Like, I understand the history of it. And ACAB is not a new movement, and defunding the police is not really a new movement. I think it rose in 2020 with the murder of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, but at the same time, it's something that started in the 1900s. Like, people were like, the police already historically are not starting off on a good foot. it's not a critique of an individual officer, right? We're not saying that person caused me harm, we need to defund everybody. It's a critique on the system. And we're saying the system was built in a negative light. It was built to 100%. Uphold these Western colonial laws, uphold state interests that were against marginalized communities, that were against, peaceful relations across
To add to
everywhere.
that for our viewers, like after the RCMP was employed in Canada, so police originally was made for social control and social force, and only until recently, or not recently, like still in the 1800s, they switched their approach to more of them viewing the community more as protecting the community, still controlling, making sure that they're upholding kind of the government's values and the roles, but at first they were for social control and to make sure that people were in line. And
And I think something that you mentioned earlier, you said the police force, right? And I think this is just such a unique perspective that I have on this as well, and I've had other people have these conversations with me is what they were intended to do was force.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What they currently are trying to do is service. Yeah. So that's the shift between what is a police force, what is a police service. Yeah. And so how I like to
that's a very unique thing. Like
it's
force to
the
service.
word, the language of it is so unique in how you use it.
Yeah, I feel like it's such intentional language.
It is. Yeah. And so if you say I work for a police service, I am here to serve you. Like what the public needs is what I'm going to do every single day. When you say I'm in a police force, I'm forcing the law upon you. I am forcing, public order, social control. I'm not serving you in any capacity. And I think the language of that is very impactful and how we use it too, in academics, but also just in your personal life. And like circling all back to the ACAB movement, the defund the police, like there is a problem. Like we're acknowledging that there is systemic failures. There is rotten apples where you say one individual is bad. There is like the rotten barrel, whatever those terms were. There is problems and we have to acknowledge that. But I think if you have the intention to make a difference and want to, build upon this community policing era that we attempt to be in, there is a possibility for that. And I think absolutely we need to redistribute funds. Absolutely the police do not need all of this money. Yes, it's all being used in good ways like we've seen, and as I talked about like these youth and policing programs, that's police budget, right? So if you remove budget, we might be removing that program that's benefiting 200 youth per year for how many years, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But also at the same time, we need to make sure that social services are funded. We need to make sure that there are professionals that can fund and support individuals. So absolutely, I see the issue and I see the problem. I do personally think, from my own experiences, whether it be positive, negative interactions, and also work and academics, I would say the police are necessary in modern society.
I absolutely agree.
There's
with that.
no way that we would have order without them right now.
Yeah.
But there does need to be a shift in how, we are policing and how we're building these partnerships and how we're able to move forward.
And to hear, like, are we gonna wrap up the our episode for today? So before going, I just want to ask you, like, what are, because you work there for 3 years, you observe the people. So, and for the students who are thinking, who just after maybe listening a little bit about from the episode or from either from the interest, so who are thinking to be the part of police services or who want to be maybe join this program, what the skills and what the advice you want to give? Because you cleared somehow an interview, right? So you got that skills, right? Yeah. And even because you observe the people, you're either they're not doing like either you was not being a police service like a woman, right? But if somebody want to be a policeman or policewoman, what you observed, what the advice is, and what kind of mindset you think they should bring to the office. So if you want to let the people know, and then we could just let the people go.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think if you want to, work for the police in any capacity, or law enforcement, or even just interested in law in general, like you need to have purpose and passion. That's number one. Like
that's a big thing.
Cannot just be like, I want to be an officer because I want to be an officer.
Yeah, or I just want to live, like I just want to earn livelihood.
I just want a good pay and whatever. No, absolutely not. You need to be like, I want to make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
You need to find like-minded people in the service. You need to have conversations and say, what are you doing every day? Because something that's very different is the role of the police is not entirely what the police should be doing every day. The police are responding to so many calls that should be social services, that should be professionals in specific areas and fields that can address these.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I feel like there's so many welfare and just like making sure that like people are okay, where it should be maybe an officer goes with a professional, not 100% officers dealing with that, because they don't have that training.
They're not trained for it at all. And I pulled stats because I'm a research nerd. And this is all public information, everyone, FYI. So the most high volume calls that are received in the Durham Regional Police Service are checks on mental well-being and mental health issues.
Yeah.
This is taking up almost more than 50% of all of their calls per year.
Okay. Yeah.
That's insane.
That is someone's calling 911, taking up the resources of a 911 communications individual, and being like, someone just needs support today. And that's the sad fact of our reality, is that we do not have the resources to support all of these problems. And not even a problem, like a social service issue, an individual conversation that needs to be had, officers are doing instead of professionals that have studied this and gone to school and have been trained. God.
Yeah.
And then, so 8% of calls from this year entirely, so we just started October, 8% of calls this year are emergency calls in the Durham Regional Police Service. That is, knives, that's guns, that's weapons, that's break and enters. Those are the severe crimes.
Yeah.
Only 8%. So we are having officers more often than not responding to calls that aren't really their responsibility. Shouldn't be, but they are taking on that responsibility
and I feel like that
themselves.
takes a toll on them as well.
Entirely. And that relates to, the defund the police movement, because you are dealing with so much that you shouldn't be dealing with. Yeah. And we need to redistribute that fund a little bit. So at the same time, if you're going into the police service, you want a job here, you want to work for them in any capacity, you need to understand what it looks like in contemporary society. Because if you search up what do the police do, it's going to be like protect order, crime, punishment, whatever. It's not going to say that they are checking in on individuals every day. Yeah. They're doing compliance checks. They are going to court. They are, checking in on someone that they got a call from a couple days ago because they want to make sure that they're safe. You are not really capturing all of that in research. You're not capturing all of that in a simple Google search. And so I think that that's really important, is to understand what it currently looks like. Understand the history of the police. Yeah, don't go in there and just be like, we're good.
Everything is amazing.
Yeah. You need to understand where it came from, what they're currently doing, what does it look like, and have goals yourself to what you could change, how you can contribute to community policing, positive interactions, what the service can do differently and how they can shift. I know we're kind of running out of time, but something that
you can take your time.
Something that I wanted to mention with this is, this summer I worked with, and when I was interviewing these thousands of people, it felt like, I was working with the community response team. Yeah. And this unit is officers that are either school resource officers, traffic officers, or literally an officer that walks the streets or is on their bike every day and just having conversations with people. In the northern region of Durham, we have, there's lots of Indigenous communities. And so we had officers that were literally a liaison, and they served as, hey, am I able to come into your community today, have some conversations? What can we do for you? How can I support you? What are we able to change? How can I advance your goals and your missions? Then they're coming back and reporting on this and saying, this is how we can make a difference and make sure that, they have this event, we're going to uphold it, but we're not going to intervene. But we're going to make sure that everyone is safe.
And I feel like that's such a benefit because from what they're originally intended for to actually control the Indigenous, to going back into their communities, and kind of when we were talking about gaining that trust, I think that's how you do it.
The partnership, right? And they had what they like to call it, and I spoke with this one inspector, is the feedback loop. They would go in, they would solve a problem. Maybe there was a bunch of overdoses in an area, and they went to go manage that situation, have some conversations with families that were impacted, and say, you know what, maybe was there more of an access problem that they were able to, we can address. Or maybe there's some, lower level drug crime that's happening that we can address. What do you want us to do? And then there's that community relationship. There's that partnership saying, I think this would work. then the police act on it, and they'll return to that community and they'll say, did we do a good job?
Yeah.
What do you think we could do differently? And this is something that you don't see in the news.
Yeah.
You don't see
not at
these
all.
interactions when you're reading, research or academic reports on the police.
So true.
I feel like the news just kind of focuses on all the bad and
100%.
not the good.
Yeah.
So it's not to undermine the bad. It's not at all for us to be like, they are not perpetuating harm.
Yeah.
We're
never
not
about accomplishments. Yeah.
Exactly. But my goal today is to kind of open everyone's eyes a little bit more.
Yeah.
And just say, you know what, there is bad. Always.
Yeah,
There's bad in every
absolutely.
institution, everywhere you go.
Every coin
But there's
has two
good
sides.
too.
Like every
There's
coin
two
has
truths.
two sides.
Exactly. There's always two truths. The police can cause harm, but they can also want to make a change.
Yeah.
And
I
that
feel
can
like
both be
now-
true at the same time.
Yeah,
I
feel
think
like now
once
they're doing it.
your
Yeah.
family member, somebody get into that, you
Yeah.
relate to more. Like you get into that situation, you get into that job, and you can now understand everything. And you're
Yeah.
advocating and you're like empowering and also opening the mind of people. Like no, it's not the reality. Try to understand the reality. I think it's gonna be more like more youth is joining the program, more youth going into that, and they're gonna understand how okay, this is how the system works, right?
Exactly.
It's
And
just
that's the
like-
future, right? Like
Exactly. And even for like, I would say, if you talk about the history, I want to add more on that. Like, because they're open to everybody, I would say, even if, because a lot of people are coming to Canada as, immigrants and a lot of students are coming. So I would say, doesn't matter you're taking any program, or you're taking law and society, or you're taking STEM, but you always get a choice to do electives. And I would say choose your elective wisely. Don't take it like, I just want my GPA up and just want to go with the easy course or something like that. Because personally, what I did, like, I got chance. I had like 120 credits. So I have some 18 plus. I would say 18 plus elective credits. So I go into all perspective. Like
you're so good.
My first course was understanding indigenous history, like from where Canada started, like what is Canada, why it is like this.
I'm actually
like,
taking that right now. Indigenous histories.
The steps.
It's so cool.
Like now I get like when I'm talking and sitting and I'm trying to understand the history. You're talking about the police history because I had some perspective from that courses. So I would say doesn't matter international, domestic, wherever, but be, like as she mentioned, like know the history, know the happening, what happened, why it happened, like know about that. And I would say that for being a student, because the chance, because if you're trying to sit back and trying to find some time in your schedule, like I have to sit and study about this history, I would say do it in the regular basis. Just take it as a course.
Exactly.
And they're gonna
absolutely.
teach you more because specifically in the courses like that, you go in tutorials with 20 people and you discuss about it. Instead of listening just whole lecture, just history lecture, sitting with 20 people in their class, your peers, and talking about that discussion, that makes you learn more. So I have one advice for students who just want to go into that. I would say use your degree credits wisely and take such kind of courses as well.
Exactly. And like recognize that if you are in an institution of university, college, whatever it might be, you're already privileged to be there.
Exactly.
So let's use our education in a positive way to try and learn something different. Like you said, like you're trying to expand your knowledge a little bit more too, and try to like take electives in different courses that you didn't know about, which is so beneficial because you're more well-rounded because of it.
Yeah.
And I think that when you have the opportunity to educate yourself, in a capacity where you have professors that do this research every single day and this is what they are passionate about, you have the opportunity to learn so much. And if you don't have the opportunity and you're not currently in school, there is thousands of resources online that are free to people as well to take the time to try to educate yourself a little bit more, especially if you're interested in policing, law enforcement, the law in general. There is a lot of information online. And as I said, I pulled some public stats for you. You can find those as well. And other services, you can just search them up and kind of understand and analyze, crime, trends, what's happening around you, because it's always good to be informed.
And before I wrap up, do you want to add something, Charlie? Do you want to add?
I don't. I feel like everything here has been so good. This has been like such a like knowledgeable
eye-opener.
I absolutely love learning about like the police because I'm a crime major, of course.
Yeah.
But it's so interesting just to hear about all the different perspectives and experiences, and even like Rabal, like the experiences that you had as generally like a more newcomer to Canada, and just seeing how our histories play out and the roles that police have here, because I'm sure back home it's different than here. So it's very cool to see all of the different perspectives. And I'm so happy that you were able to come on today.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I come from a country with like a same colonial rules, and they have a very in-depth, profound history. And when I moved to Canada, I was like, I want to know where it starts from. Like, what is Canada? Why it is like this?
Why is it named Canada?
Yeah, and people are choosing like. And it's a country, like now it's called as a country of immigrants. Like, why people choosing Canada? Like, what's different, right? Why I am here, right? Why I choose it?
And why are you here at school, too?
Exactly. Yeah. So I was like, okay, so I start with electives. Like, I start with indigenous course in the first year. Then I move a little bit up. Then I go to public diplomacy, try to understand the political situation right now. I had history in first year. And then in the second year, moved to present, like, okay, what's right now is going in US, Canada. Like, how's in North America things work? So I tried. I'm trying.
She's doing a great job.
You're so good.
And here we're going to wrap up our episode. And we just want to say a big thank you to Hailey, because I can see how research she did. She had such a great perspective from the job she did from the last 3 years. But I can see all the external research she did on her basis to let us know more about it. And thank you, Charlie, for co-hosting with me this episode. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, viewers and listeners on Spotify, YouTube, for giving time and listening to us. And for more episodes, for more updates, don't forget to follow us on YouTube and Spotify, only the Women in Law Association at YU, your Q, and we will see you with next episode. Till then, take care.
Bye.